All right, Racer.com fans, Robin Miller, David Malsher, GR Hildebrand joining us again. Gave us a nice report at Baltimore. Kid, we'll start with you. I told Scott Dixon after the race, if you'd have told me, Dixon, you came into this race trailing by 49 points and you left Sunday night with a 25-point lead in the championship with one race to go, you would have said, and he hit.
Oh, that's Helio you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable the turnaround. I don't think I've seen anything this dramatically change this dramatically in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were talking about that same thing earlier, and I said you would have just laughed in his face if somebody had said that. So just an unbelievable turnaround. I mean, the type of thing that a guy in Scott's position thinks in the back of your head, man, it'd be great if, Helio had 2 DNFs and we, win both races. And that basically happened. I mean, that never happens, certainly this late in the season. It all comes to a head here on the doubleheader weekend. It's just further proof that whatever happens the first day on the doubleheader weekend is likely to sort of replicate itself the next day on the doubleheader weekends. It puts Scott in the driver's seat here for sure going into Fontana.
Okay, selfishly, we sat here yesterday, you and me and Marshall, saying, boy, if we could just have another day like that, we're going to go to the final race and it's going to be a championship up for grabs without a phony baloney chase like NASCAR. Well, we got it. It's hard to imagine it's not closer than it is, and that Dixon is so much in the catbird seat.
Absolutely. It's like Chicago 2008, where Helio had to come through the field and he won the race, but Dixie went in with way too much of a lead. I don't see Dixon dropping this now. I know I don't want to put a jinx on him, and I don't want Helio to feel down about it. But, yeah, I don't see Dixon failing to win this. On the other hand, look at our season. It's been nuts. The craziest things are happening. Conway getting up off the couch and winning Detroit. I mean, so, yeah, truly anything can happen.
Jer, when you look at this racetrack, all kind of problems. We had a jump. We rained out qualifying this morning. It just seems like there were so many obstacles. But when the sun came out this afternoon, we had 2 back-to-back pretty good kick-ass races. There was a bunch of passing places. Were you surprised how much overtaking there was?
No, just because I think since this new car came out, and I think since Chevy and Honda are so equal right now, the street course race, the temporary circuit races have just been really good races across the board. Over the last couple of years they have been. So that element of it didn't surprise me. I think the slicker the track, the more curbing you have, the more different the way the drivers work and the cars work kind of comes out. So you've got guys that maybe are setting similar lap times, but it's in completely different sections of the racetrack. That adds to the effect of more pass. You listen to Will and Scott talk about where they were different. Scott would be on Will's bumper through 3 and 4, but Will was better through that long turn 5 around the Astrodome. It's a lot of give and take. So, I think that's what makes for the good racing. I think it's unfortunate coming here. I think that there's 3 or 4 corners for sure on the racetrack that didn't need to be as slow as they were. They kind of punched the curbing out in the middle of the racetrack, which, I know certainly when the track hadn't rubbered in yet it looked really slow out there. And I personally, I don't think that's why fans show up to watch an IndyCar race. They want to see the cars going fast. That's what we do best. It'd be nice to see in future years some of those corners get a little bit quicker. But, all in all, given the constraints that this was under, not being able to set up until this week because the football game and having, the kind of mess that it was on Thursday and Friday, like you said, great racing across the board.
Turned out much better than we thought it would. David, let's talk about Will Power real quick. Second victory of the year. I mean, it shouldn't surprise you by all the laps he's led and all the races he's won, but it just seems like there was a period there where nothing went right for him, and now suddenly he's back on his game.
Absolutely. He's furious whenever he hears someone says, that he's been going through a slump. Well, he's been going through a slump in results, but the guy's now led 14 of this year's races. It's just, at the end of the races, everything turns to crap for him in a lot of occasions. But this weekend, he went in so determined to help Helio, yes, but also win for himself. He didn't like the way things went in Sonoma, even though he won. There was all that debate, should Dixie be penalised, that kind of thing. And then, of course, there was a fracas with Dixie again at Baltimore. But above all, what I loved about today's race is that it's the race we should have seen yesterday if they had kept the pits open under yellow. And Bo made a commitment today that he would only keep only close the pits under the direst of circumstances. And today we got a race, and the order wasn't too screwed up by yellow flag periods. And thank God for that.
Well, and the other thing is, it wasn't a fuel race. It wasn't a strategy race. It was two guys running as hard as they could, which is exactly why you want to be out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to David's point about Will, I was out sort of spotting and looking at the different places on the track, every practice session, every qualifying session, and from lap one, Will was just on it. I mean, it was visually impressive to watch the guy from halfway through the first session. It was just like, there's a reason the guy is 6.5 tenths up on the field, halfway through every session, and most of the time all the way to the end of sessions. I mean, he's literally just on point. The car is obviously where he needs it to be to do that. It looks very stable, and he can just go drive. I mean, it was actually impressive to watch. It was one of the, and that's not something even at this level that I think you visibly notice that often, is one guy really driving the car that much harder, being that much more aggressive with confidence than everybody else. So for sure that was impressive here this weekend.
And James Hinchcliffe, who did a good job, finished third back on the podium, said, I don't know what it is. Those two guys were just on a different planet. And, when you're driving as hard as you can and somebody's pulling away from you, that can probably be a little demoralizing. But it's not like these guys just started. They've been around a while, and they're driving for the two best teams. Davey, what do you think? We'll talk about Dario's crash at the end of the race here. When we saw it the second or third time and you saw all the destruction and everything, it was pretty spectacular. But thankfully he landed, JR and I were talking about it, he landed on his wheel. He landed right side up, didn't hit any posts or anything. So he's been upside down 3 times, and none of them have been as scary as that one was.
No, that was one. It's weird, isn't it, that in the close confines of the street it looks even more dramatic, even though it's at a lower speed than his shunts on the ovals. And I mean, I was scared for the cameraman who actually got the shot of it, because the bits went whipping by him. And when you looked at it, I mean, he was slightly on the outside of Sato. Sato ended up, he literally bounced sideways over a bump, and that was enough to trigger it. So, I don't think there's any changes that should be made to the circuit. I think, we certainly need to look at how the bumpers work in relation to the front wheels of other cars. Or, I need to see it from overhead, really, to make a past judgment. But these shunts are going to happen. I'm just, thank God Dario's, fingers crossed, is okay, and that his back is just sore. But, he's a tough little, can I say bastard?
Sure.
Yeah, he's a tough little bastard. And, I think he's going to prove that. I've now said it 3 times, I guess, bastard.
All right, we got to wrap this up. But our boy here, as you can see by his shirt, will be driving for Brian Herta in the season finale at Fontana. No pressure on you. If Herta doesn't gain about 10 points over Vautier and Sam Schmidt, he's not going to be in the Leader Circle program next year. So, have a good time in California. But, I mean, have you guys talked, has he mentioned anything about that to you?
He's good about not laying the pressure on, I think. But I've certainly been made aware of the current situation, and it'll be good. It'll be fun. They were quite good there last year. I felt like myself at Panther there, we were obviously quite competitive, and we're the first to the table, kind of checking the high line out and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be different. We didn't test there this last couple weeks ago, but. We'll just we'll come in with a strong game plan. The engineer, Todd Malloy, over there is quite good, and make sure that everybody's prepared. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun.
It's only a difference of $1 million, which is his retainer, by the way. You probably didn't know that, but it would be fun to see an American from Northern California win an American race in California in an oval when he's looking for a ride for next year. Okay, gang, thanks for listening. We'll see you in a couple weeks.